I'm in sunny California, the ocean's behind me, the mountains are in front of me, and right beside me is the refreshed 2024 Porsche Cayenne. In this video, I'll be driving both the S model and the E-Hybrid model, letting you know what it's like to drive, what's changed with the powertrains, and what Porsche has done to make their V8 more fuel efficient than the outgoing V6, which is what we have here in the S model. On the front end of the 2024 Porsche Cayenne, you'll notice the look is chiseled more than it was for the outgoing model. There's a lot of refinement, but it's not overdone, and it's still recognizable as a Porsche Cayenne. It's not a big change to the body, it's more in the details. You have these really cool new matrix headlights, and it's an upgradable option, but you can get high definition matrix headlights, and each of the bulbs has over 30,000 actual bulbs in itself. It's a really revolutionary idea, and it's been implemented really well. It helps you see around corners, it prevents blinding of other drivers, whether it's a narrow road or a larger road. These upgraded HD headlights are really, really impressive from Porsche. The biggest change you'll notice on the rear as far as design goes is where the license plate is placed. So previously it was up here, it was actually in the lid, but now Porsche has pushed it down. It gives us a much cleaner and sleeker look. The word Porsche is no longer behind glass, it's exposed, and I find it just gives it a little more of an elegant touch by having it here. There's a really thin spoiler here as well, and I find the rear end looks really refined, and a lot of it, if not all of it, has to do with the placement of the license plate. I know it's a small thing, but in the design world, small things equal big things equal massive things, and I feel it changes the entire rear end aesthetic for the 2024 Porsche Cayenne. You still have these beautiful wraparound taillights, and they look really sharp, and you have your quad exhausts, two on this side, two on that side, and there's nothing wrong with the 23 Cayenne. And am I happy that Porsche updated it for 2024? Absolutely. Would I have still been happy even without the license plate being moved with the rear end of the Cayenne? Sure, there wasn't anything wrong with it, but I just find that the small details have made a big difference here in the 2024 Porsche Cayenne. There's cosmetic changes up front and in the rear, but inside is where the biggest changes are. There's a 12.6-inch digital instrument cluster, there's a 12.3-inch digital infotainment system, and a new optional 10.9-inch passenger screen. Let's get behind the wheel of both the E-Hybrid and the S model and find out what it's like to drive. With the hybrid version of the Cayenne, power comes from a 3-liter turbocharged V6 engine, and it churns out 463 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque, and all of that is run through Porsche's 8-speed Tiptronic transmission. Now, the big news here is the increase in battery size. So the 2023 model year had a 17.9 kilowatt per hour battery, and they've increased it significantly, so now it's 25.9 kilowatts. As of the time of recording and publishing, there are no official figures from Transport Canada or Porsche Canada, but what we can say is the previous range was 17 miles. Porsche says the range should go up by about 20% based off the increase in battery size. So for the Canadians, that equates to about 40 kilometers of range on a full charge. Now, as far as driving goes in the hybrid mode, you have 3 different options as far as how you want to use/store your power. If your route has you going through highway and urban areas, I'd suggest going through the E-Hold, use your gas-powered engine for the highway, and then when you're in your urban section, go from the E-Hold into either the straight electric mode itself or through the hybrid mode. The electric motor produces 174 horsepower and 339 pound-feet of torque, and again, your combined output is 463 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. The 2024 Cayenne E-Hybrid does have an 11 kilowatt onboard charger, so your level 2 0 to 100 time is a little under 2.5 hours. So basically overnight, you can really wake up every morning if you have a level 2 charger at home with a full battery, and depending on your driving style and dynamics and length, you may miss out on a bunch of gas rewards points for an extended period of time. The E-Hybrid weighs 3,125 kilograms, but thanks to Porsche's power and precision, it does the 0 to 100 kilometer per hour sprint in 4.9 seconds. It's impressive considering the weight of the battery, the weight of the vehicle, and it's Porsche's largest offering. As far as selecting your drive modes, there's a small little wheel on the bottom right of the steering wheel for a 911-esque, and you have 5 options. You can go off-road, e-power, hybrid, sport, or sport plus. Most people will live in normal/hybrid mode as it gives them the most balanced drive and it's certainly no slouch as far as getting up to speed, and it still has that very crisp gear change, whether you're going up hills or down hills, accelerating / decelerating. It's such a well-balanced machine considering that it's a hybrid, and underneath the skin and all of the fun technology on the inside, it's still a Porsche at heart. So you know you'll have really good driving dynamics. It holds turns and curves and twists really flat. Despite it being Porsche's largest offering, there's minimal body roll. And yes, there'll still be some because you can't really change physics or gravity, but it's a lot less prevalent as it would be in some of the competitors. Bumping it up into sport mode, you do have the active exhaust. It's a little quiet. I would have expected something a little louder, and if you do want something a little louder, turn that dial just 1 notch to the right and you pop it into Sport Plus, which I'll do right now. And you can hear the difference, even through my microphone, which is attached to the seatbelt and attached to me. That extra grumble and growl still comes through the cabin, and it just gives that extra oomph as far as driving dynamics go, and it gives you that sporty feel as well. This does have Porsche's Sport Chrono package, so you push that button right in the middle of your gear selector and it optimizes the engine for 20 seconds. You get all sorts of lovely sounds, and I will do it right now for you because you deserve to hear it. So it feels so good, and you're not going to use it all the time. It's for extreme situations when you need to avoid a collision situation perhaps, or if you need to make an evasive maneuver. It's not like you have to dig through the screen and go through menus and menus and menus to find it. It is simply one push, one button. You do have a countdown timer on the right side of your digital instrument cluster, so you know exactly when your 20 seconds is up. There's a short amount of travel on the brakes, and they're a little spongy. Now, that's not a specific Porsche Cayenne comment. It's of all hybrids, because you do have the regen braking system, and it's configured a little differently than your traditional braking system. It's not uncomfortable by any means, and as this is the first drive, I've only had a few hours with the vehicle, but if you do choose to purchase or lease or finance or have one in your driveway for an extended period of time, you'll get used to it. And it's a pretty short learning curve, but just know that with the brake pedal, it's short travel, a little on the spongy side, but it still works exactly as it should. In full electric mode, the vehicle is, as you'd expect, very responsive, very quiet, and it's near silent. And I hope that if you are looking or driving this hybrid version, that you utilize it as much as possible, because it's got such a smart regen technology to it, and you still have all of Porsche's very well-known and famous driving dynamics, regardless of what drive mode you're in, and especially in the full electric mode. Now we're in the Cayenne S, and there's some interesting notes here. So to begin with, there's no longer a V6. Porsche has upgraded it to a V8, and if you're wondering, well, that kind of goes against what a lot of the other manufacturers are doing as far as going with a smaller engine but putting out a higher amount of power. Porsche's got some tricks up their sleeve. So what we have here is a 4-liter twin-turbo V8. It's got 468 horsepower and 492 pound-feet of torque, and it's all through Porsche's 8-speed Tiptronic. And if you're wondering, well, Jay, didn't you say that there's a Tiptronic in the hybrid? And you just said there's a Tiptronic now. Well, you're right. And I asked Porsche Canada, well, why did you do that? Why wouldn't you give out the PDK to just enhance that driving experience? And the response I got was, well, the Tiptronic is still a remarkable transmission, but the big driver here is you can tow almost 8,000 pounds with a Tiptronic, whereas those towing figures would be a lot lower if they went with the PDK. They want you to do so many things, whether it be on-road or off-road or in the city or in the country, that keeping that towing of almost 8,000 pounds was really important. And I agree with them. And would it be great to have a PDK? Sure, but there's lots of other Porsche vehicles that you can get the PDK in. While there's no official fuel figures from Natural Resources Canada as of the time of recording of this video, Porsche Canada does say that they've increased fuel economy on the Cayenne, even though they bumped it up from a V6 to a V8. And the main driver here is that they've engineered it and tweaked it so that each cylinder acts individually. It doesn't need as much fuel to go further, and it doesn't need as much fuel to get it powered going from a standstill. to the 100-kilometer dash, which is done in only 4.7 seconds, which is pretty remarkable. So what's the V8 like to drive? Well, as they say, there's no replacement for displacement, and a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 certainly does the trick here. And it's more than just the impressive numbers on paper. It's a linear power delivery, and there's not a lot of oversteer, there's not a lot of understeer. It's not quite perfect, it's not 911, but it's got 911 elements to it all over the place as far as the drive feel goes. It's strong and powerful, and it's flat through twists and turns. Despite it being Porsche's largest vehicle, a taller vehicle, and a fairly heavy vehicle, it still goes through twists and turns and corners incredibly well. There's not a lot of body roll. The power delivery is instant. There's a fraction of turbo lag, and you're going to find that anywhere. That's not a Porsche Cayenne thing. And whether you're going in the city to a grocery shop or do some errands, whether you're opening it up on the back roads, whether you're going on a longer road trip, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. And I say that because I've had a pretty wild mix of different driving conditions as far as my day of driving goes. I've had it on the freeway and back roads and urban areas and small towns, and all of my experiences have been that the V8 delivers, and it should deliver. It had better deliver, because Porsche's pillars are based off performance, and they stand really bright here. And it's surprisingly impressive that they've done so much with such a large vehicle. And I know there's going to be an even larger Porsche vehicle coming in the next couple of years, but for what we have here with the Cayenne, and the first impressions for driving their V8 S model is 10 out of 10. All Cayennes have the same gear selector position, which is very 911-esque, bottom right of the steering wheel. And here we have off-road, normal, sport, and sport plus. And it does exactly what you think it does. Normal is your good everyday driving mode. Sport is if you want a small exclamation point, you want the exhaust, you want a bit more of that sporty feel. And sport plus, well, that's just a bunch of exclamation marks, one after another, and it really helps give that extra performance feel to the Cayenne S. And I don't know how many people will actually use Sport Plus, but know that it's there. Know that if you find a stretch of road that's safe to do so, you can really open it up. Or if you go to the track with this, which I think some people might, because having nearly 500 horsepower and nearly 500 pound-feet of torque through a lightning quick 8-speed Tiptronic transmission, you could probably get some decent lap times out of that. There's 4 different engines you can get in the 2024 Porsche Cayenne. You have the base model, which I feel weird calling base because it's not a base. Let's call it the entry point into the Cayenne family, and that's a 3-liter V6. You also have a 3-liter V6 in the hybrid, which is what we talked about earlier in this video. Here we have the 4-liter V8, 468 horsepower, 492 pound-feet of torque, and interestingly, that's an increase of 34 horsepower and 37 pound-feet of torque over 2023. And finally, at the top, you have the Cayenne GT, which has a wildly tuned 4-liter V8, 650 horsepower, and that is just a mean machine. So there's something for everyone if you're looking into the Cayenne as your next vehicle, whether you want to go on the greener side and dip into the hybrid world, whether you want something like this, which has the power. It can be tamed when it needs to be, but it can really be opened up, whether you want the GT, which is just all out, full exclamation points, and just the pinnacle of power through Porsche. Or if you want something that has enough power to get you through, it gives you strong driving dynamics, as all of the Cayennes do, you can go with the entry point into the family, because again, calling it a base model just doesn't seem right to me. The 2024 Cayenne is more than a facelift, it's more than a refreshed interior. There's more power across all trims, there's a larger battery in the E-Hybrid, and I think it's going to continue to be their best-selling vehicle. If you've got any questions on the 2024 Porsche Cayenne, let us know in the comments. We're always happy to hear from you. For more news, reviews, and information you can use on luxury performance SUVs and other vehicles, visit our website at Driving.ca, engage with us on our social media platforms, and for Driving.ca, I'm Jay Canna.